Mr. Bill Johnson from Part 2. R.A. Milhayoff from Part 3. And Mr. Dan Yeager from the newest installment, Texas Chainsaw. I butchered your name?
Yes, right.
Well, how do you say it?
Well, I'm going to forgive you because you're remember that Russian dude with Pavel Gorbachev?
I do.
It's the same name without the K. Mihai.
Mihai.
Yeah.
All right. Because I've done a Q&A with you before. I've done a Q&A with Gunnar. I've never done Mr. Johns before and now Mr. Yeager. But guys, holy crap. Leatherface. The head gets in the way? Oh, you can leave it up. I certainly don't mind. So guys, let's go down the line a little bit and share, just as time has gone on here, how has Leatherface impacted your life? Big question. For you especially, because it's been such a long period of time.
It's never gotten me laid.
That's a great question.
You want a real answer?
Sure.
It's never gotten me laid. Well, I mean, I think the thing is that, you know, we did this movie because it was, for me, it was a summer job. You know, just something I thought, I've had a bunch of very strange and some interesting jobs, and this would be a very interesting and strange summer job. So that's why I did the movie. I don't think I had any expectation that it would be anything. I was hoping that, you know, 5 years down the road, some people would remember it. But I think the big influence on me was, after the movie was over, it was really a hard thing to do. But it was the first time I'd ever been involved with something where everybody I was working with was really good at what they were doing, and everybody was giving their best effort. And I had never been in that situation. I had just quit grad school, and you'd think at grad school that people were that way, but mostly they were slackers. And I realized that I wanted to live in a world where I was really good at whatever I did, and I always did my best. And I think that was the biggest effect on my life that working on that movie had. But it's never gotten me laid.
All the women that refused him came to me. And they rejected me.
Great head, Bill.
Fall away. So there, my life has been enriched by this experience. It's great to be here with you all. Sort of a bizarre celebration of sadism, cannibalism, narcissism, republicanism.
But enough about you.
Already told me to keep this short, but I'm not going to do it. Son of a bitch. I didn't want to talk about his penis. That about sums it up. This is a great ride, and I really love coming here and participating with you all and having fun and remembering stuff and talking about the formative years of our life, where watching a movie 100 times in a row was something that really made a lot of sense. And it's my favorite couch drunk, and I hope it continues to be yours as well. And in this deadly silence, I'm going to turn this over to R.A.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Yeah.
By the time I came along, Gunnar Hansen and Bill Johnson had done the part, so I thought you had to be Scandinavian. So I converted to Viking. But no, I'm just kidding. You know, by the time I got into it, the franchise had been very well established, and I worked for a pretty big company, so I knew it was a good opportunity. And so it changed me from a day player to someone who played an iconic character. And you're looking at someone who actually simultaneously fulfilled his childhood fantasy and his adult ambition. I got to star in a movie, and it happened to be a horror movie. My childhood fantasy, when I was a little kid, I used to read Famous Monsters of Filmland and wondered, how do you get to be the Frankenstein, and how do you get to be the Mummy? I found out. And once I learned, you know, once I realized that you could make a living as an actor, well, you know, I wanted some of that shit. So, you know, to be the titular character of a movie, that seemed pretty cool. So I fulfilled my childhood fantasy and my adult ambition simultaneously. That's it.
For me, I found out that once you're Leatherface, you are Leatherface. It defines you. And when I first started in acting 28 years ago, I met a famous actor who played Count Yorga, the vampire. His name was Robert Quarry, and he told me, just move to Hollywood, you will make a living playing monsters. And I resisted and resisted. Finally, it had this opportunity, and finally, once I was making a living playing anything, it was a monster. And despite that, my agent kept sending me to Disney to audition for TV shows.
What?
And now the rest of the world doesn't actually know what we're doing here. You know, they're not really aware of all this. And so I know every time I go into an audition and really knock it out of the park and do a great job, they Google Dan Yeager, and all the pictures come up of me being Leatherface. You know how he is. And they immediately decide, no, this is not Disney Channel material. So anyway, it does define you, but in a good way. I'm nothing but happy. I wouldn't change a thing.
You guys want to ask some questions? Okay, maybe not. Hold on one second. So let me start with you, Dan, if you don't mind. Because you have been the recent installment. For you, in a time when remakes aren't necessarily like appreciated, what was your response, or what has your response been from the fans? Has it been a lot of positive? You know, because you don't have a lot to say about how, you know, things necessarily go. You're there to do the job of an actor. You know, and you're there to portray a role. Like, I'm wondering if you were a fan of the series prior to, and what the response has been from the fans.
I like to quote Isaac Newton. If I have seen further, it is because I stand upon the shoulders of giants. And the franchise was well established by the time I came along. We were looking in making our movie to go back to that very original movie and answer the question, you know, what happened to Sally and the Sawyers, and you know, so that was the mission, and it was heavily focused on, you know, paying respect to that original movie. And I studied the work of all these gentlemen, and they all contributed to what I came up with for an act. You know, definitely, you know, the character that Gunnar played and I played, they all have their subtle nuances. You know, Leatherface is a complex character. I think he's the greatest horror icon you know, since the Frankenstein monster. Now I've rambled so long, I forgot what you asked me.
What has been the response been from
the
fan base?
fans I think I was very gratified that people seem to recognize that, you know, we were trying to be true to that Leatherface character. Although we really ran him through the ringer and turned his life upside down and changed him in profound ways, there's still the essence of Leatherface. We didn't ruin Leatherface, is basically the spirit that seems to be out there amongst most people.
Great. Question? Yes, sir.
You know, they continue with the series. What would you like to see happen with the character? Like, it hasn't already? I guess it's a question for everyone.
Yeah, I think everybody could answer that question. You know, from the incarnation all the way through, you know, what would you like to see maybe the final outcome be for Leatherface?
I don't know how you answer that. I would like Leatherface to remain a mystery as a character. I think that's a lot of the power of the character, is that he is a mystery to the audience and to the other people around him, that we can't see into him. That's, I mean, the biggest ambition for the character. I mean, we should go, you know, Leatherface goes to Disneyland. That would be kind of an interesting story. So I don't know, in terms of plot, you can go anywhere with the character, I think. But I think the main thing for me is that the character have that quality, because I think that's the essential quality that made him so frightening and compelling originally, was that he was a mystery, and there, as far as you knew, there was nothing under the mask. And I hope that they continue that sense and don't turn him into a teenager with a skin problem and an attitude. Oh, they did that.
Bill, do you have any feedback?
Yeah, I think he should open up a chainsaw repair shop and do chainsaw sculptures for museum installations. Yeah. Big bears, yeah. He may do a few nudes, perhaps something cubist. I mean, he's going to have a full range of artistic expression. And I also would like to have the chainsaw upgraded with, I don't know, THX sound system, so it's just amplified, and so it sounds like, you know, a drag strip. Not just really. That kind of thing, and then we can do.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, I really, you know, I have ideas, but they're never going to be realized, so I'm going to keep them to myself.
Oh, come on, I want to steal them.
Exactly. I mean, believe me, I love the character. I'm very proud to be associated with it, but anything I have to say about it is really has no bearing on the future of it. If I was more involved, I'd have a lot more to say. I mean, that's not a good or bad, it's just the way it is, you know what I mean?
Dan, you know, at the end, they kind of realize their family. What do you think the next step is?
I hope he maintains his, you know, status as the killer shark. In, you know, cinematically, I don't think he can ever be anybody's friend. You know, I hope they never. Yeah, it's like Gunnar said. It's the mystery. And that's his fundamental lethalness. Is that, you know, if you come knocking on his door, his instinct is not, you know, what are you doing here? It's, you're dead. And that's powerful, especially in cinema. You know, to have a character of that nature. And I hope we never lose that. Although, you know, I mean, if they're going to keep making these movies, I think we eventually need the son of Leatherface. And I believe that girl is his cousin, which in Texas is okay, I guess. I don't know. I'm not saying. My wife would rather I didn't have that scene, but I'd be willing to take one for the team.
Question right over here.
It did come up in the duel. There wasn't as much of a family. You guys all had a family surround you. Cook and Chop and that whole crew. So I'm thinking you need to get more of your family, the Sawyers, back together.
Yeah, I think we do need to find the rest of the clan. They're out there somewhere.
Because that really works. I mean,
Yeah,
let's face it, that really did. My question to all four of you is, how did you like dealing in that context of the families you had? Because each one of you had a crazy family around Grandpa and Nubbin, Chop, and all those guys. Each one of you can just comment on working in that context of that group.
You know, it seems to me that the families were pretty different in each movie, weren't they? That it was, everyone had a very different context. I mean, Leatherface's family was totally insane, and not in a good way. I mean, they were people who were deeply sadistic and I mean, cruel to, I mean, just, you know, they took great pleasure in what they did while also, at least for the cook, pretending that he was, you know, an upright moral character. So I don't know, I mean, I can't imagine how Leatherface, how do you talk about how Leatherface would feel about his family? I mean, so I'm not sure how to answer, because my first reaction is every one of these families is so totally different from the other families. You know, when you look at especially when you look at the 2003 Chainsaw, you know, seriously, you can't even figure out really who is in that family. How do you define the Leatherface Chainsaw family in the 2003 Chainsaw? But in a way, the Chainsaw movies is about family. I think that was a big point with Chainsaw 3D.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that it's about family. So you hit a nerve, but I don't know how you figure that one out. Bill, you can figure it out.
Okay, I'll figure it out for you. All right, you got it.
Okay, well.
The family unit is basic. You go back to like the Western history in Greece, it's about the family. All the way up to now, because that's what we know and that's kind of who we are. How we transform the past of our parents into our own present and hope to get a better future out of the deal. So there may be some of us here who recognize our own families a little bit in some part to the screen family. I know I did. I spent the first 18 years of my life rehearsing in my dysfunctional family for this role, and apparently it worked just fine. So maybe we just start at the beginning, or just, I mean, it's like, what is it, the process of self-forgiveness. You know, bargaining, and you come back and around and around. Are we going to stay here, or are we going to go somewhere else? Are we just going to be content to eat each other, or are we going to do something else? I don't think we can do both. So, fabulous philosophical question.
I don't know how you answer it.
The real question, perhaps, is how do we keep making these bastards and making a buck? That's what we're curious. I mean, that is on the minds of many who are able to make it. So, if they're truly curious, come and find me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I hope in the Nice Chainsaw movie that the family is reconstituted and that Boss Sawyer didn't die after all. Just because I'd like to be in another Chainsaw movie.
Stand up for us, just so we can hear you.
What's the deal about changing it up from Thomas Hewitt to Thomas Sawyer? Why did you change it from Hewitt to Sawyer?
Why did they change the name from Hewitt to Sawyer? We didn't do that.
We didn't do that.
We wouldn't do that.
No, and it's basically because each generation, each writer, just doesn't pay attention to the previous movie. The family's name in the original movie is Slaughter. In the second movie, it's Sawyer. In the fifth movie, it's Hewitt. And I don't know, what is it in, and it's Sawyer again.
His 3 was Sawyer, yeah. I think, as far as I remember, I can tell.
But that's the writers doing. That's got nothing to do with us. And you know, producers and writers make all their decisions without consulting the actors.
I think you pick up what Gunner's saying. First one, independent film. No corporate boardroom working the bottom line and due diligence. So you spin it the way you feel it. More and more it gets incorporated and suits are making decisions. You start to notice the machinery more than the people. And it becomes a source of branding. So we want to rebrand this family. Sawyer Hewitt. And then they went to a prequel. Let's see if we can really respin this. And I think they spun down the train. It just didn't fly. Dan brought, I thought, a lot of heart back